All right, transferable MOSs. You ain't got one.
I know that. The hard way.
You could try taking the tank up and down I-25. Some guy in San Diego tried it about 20 years ago. Didn't work out well for him.
I thought about it.
All right. So what are some of the skills that these people do have? Attention to detail. You know, when you're bore sighting your tank and you're down to the 0.02 mils. Didn't think I knew that, did you? All right. Team building. I tell you what, everyone in the military knows how to team build. But I'm probably going to say combat arms are better than that, are better at it than others. Especially when you're down at that team level in infantry land. Safety conscious. You know, everyone can talk about OSHA regulations. Who's my forklift operator? We talk about OSHA regulations all the time. But you know what? You know, keeping the muzzle up and down range is pretty important. Making sure that when you're looking through your MVGs that you're looking down range and someone has a chem light hanging off from them that's really not a target. If I said it, it happened. All right? Back in Germany, somebody got shot in the butt because somebody else thought it was a target and it was really a chem light hanging off of them. There's MVGs. Luckily, it was just a butt. All right, XO, Executive Officer. All right. Now, these are not C-level positions when you're talking down at the company level, because, excuse me, at the company level, they're still dictating what what's being done. All right. So a company commander is not a CEO, because you take that mentality over into the corporate sector, and you realize that that person wasn't. They had guidelines between their left and right limits. They were told, hey, you're gonna do this. I'm not gonna tell you how to do it, but you're gonna do this. Okay. So they still usually had to report back and saying, this is how I'm gonna do it, and get that blessed off on. Now the CEO is not gonna ask anyone's help. They're saying this is what we're gonna do, and they're not checking back with anyone. Maybe board of managers, but by that time it's probably too late. All right, key custodian. Once again, one of those additional duties that none of us like to have. But you're talking chain of custody. Look at those things in there. Policy implementation. That is a key term in a lot of jobs that you're looking at. Physical security, facilities management, record keeping. All those things are key terms. All those things are key skills. All those things are applicable to that additional duty that none of us wanted to do. But now we can put them on our resume. You know, sexual harassment and rape prevention NCO, risk mitigation. Yeah. Given all those classes, you know, when you're actually talking to someone one-on-one, investigations, 15-6s, so a lot of I believe E7 and above can do a 15-6, right? Investigation. Those investigations, once again, those are, oh man, why can't I just go shoot my tank? This is my job, I'm a tanker. No, Sergeant First Class, no Lieutenant, no Captain, I need you to go do this investigation. Those things that you did outside of your normal job are applicable. And all these things we're talking about, yes, they're military related because we normally work with people who are actively transitioning, but the concept is to get you thinking about some of those other skills that you did. When you did painting, did you teach painting? Sorry, I got you in the middle of the body. Go. Did you teach the classes or anything?
I've got a degree in construction. It's that kind of thing.
Okay.
Painting houses, commercial.
But still, with that is you had to do presentations, so people, you had to do a lot of one-on-one consulting, right? Because they needed to know how much paint, you know what's mixed to get what certain color. I know when someone came up to you, they didn't just say, I want red, and you just got red. It was like, okay, well, what kind of red do you want? Yeah. Retention NCO, recruiting, things of that nature. All those, once again, I'm not going to insult your intelligence. You can see that right there. Those are all applicable skills to that specific duty. Next. All right, what you have in front of you that I passed out is an actual job description. That's an actual job. All right, I mentioned earlier the 80% rule. Now, I'm not saying if you don't have 80% that you shouldn't apply. What I am saying is that to be competitive, you should have at least 80%. Now, once again, we talked about networking. So if someone you know tells you to apply to a position, you should be applying to that position. Because oftentimes the job description isn't very applicable, or it doesn't really translate what the job itself is doing. Paul back there, we saw a job description come across our desk for a guy to install cameras and alarm systems and things of that nature. This guy says, hey, I've never done anything with these alarms, but I'm a camera guru. So we reached out to the person who actually pushed that out to us, said, this guy's got the aptitude. That's another key word, because if you have the aptitude to do something, that means you can learn it. I don't have the aptitude to do math, okay? So I'm not going to get into a career field that requires math. But this guy, because of those installing cameras and all the electronics works that he had like that, he displayed that he had the aptitude to work on the alarm systems. We reached out to the guy that posted the job. He says, yes. Just looking at what we've talked about right now, he's our leading candidate. Go ahead and make sure he applies. Right?
And you wrote a cover letter this weekend and submitted his resume.
All right. So preferred qualifications. This is where you set yourself apart from everyone else that is applying to the same job. This means obviously preferred. These are what they're looking for. This is the above and beyond. Do you have any of them? If you don't, do you have anything that is similar? You know, they may be asking for, you know, whatever. But if you've done something similar to that, I would definitely highlight that on the resume, just because it isn't exact. Once again, it shows that you have the aptitude. Once again, it shows that you are familiar with. Just because you're not an expert doesn't mean you're not familiar with. Tracking? All right, responsibilities. When you're looking at this job, you know, there's some responsibilities in there. We talked earlier the difference between responsibilities and achievements. You can put your achievements into those responsibilities. Or in some situations when you are those responsibilities, your daily duties, as we say, or something of that nature. If you've done that and there's a similar task in typical responsibilities like investigate complaints. All right, has anyone done customer service?
I have.
I think all of us have done customer service in one way or another. All right, did you investigate complaints? Yeah. Everyone's now you're starting to think about it. Oh no, yes, you just say yes. Just say yes. All right, because you did. Because inevitably somebody came up to you and said, "This sucks. It's all your fault." That's the nature of the beast with customer service. All right, and you looked into it, and hopefully you made things better for that individual, or you, from that point on, you changed a policy. Changing policy is huge. But that's how you have to start looking at the things that you've already done, whether it's in your military career or one of these other jobs that you've held since then. All right, daily duties. Take a look at it. Is this something that you want to do? All right, because if it's not, you probably shouldn't apply. You know, if you're, regardless of whatever situation you're in, if you don't like a job that you're going to, you're probably not going to be successful at that job. If you don't like a job, if you have no desire whatsoever to be there, you're probably going to be looking for another job in a week and a half. All right, those are some of the considerations that we need to look at. Next slide. Anyone ever heard of STAR method?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. So there's all kinds of different acronyms for them, whether it's STAR, CAR, call, they all mean the same thing, just different words. All right, situation, task, action, result. And this is when you're writing a resume, and Adam will actually get into this in the interviewing as well, it's applicable in both. What was the situation, especially on a resume, in as little words as possible. Sometimes that situation may be listed above in your responsibilities. All right, task. What was the key objective? What did you have to do? What did you have to accomplish? The action, what did you do? Once again, we're getting into not necessarily what the team did. All right? What did you do? Did you implement a policy? How did you streamline a process? How did you save the organization money? And the result. The result is probably one of the most important parts of the STAR statement. because that shows that whatever you put into place worked. All right, that shows that, once again, you saved the money. You did, X, Y, Z better than your peers. You were recognized by your supervisors. All these things that you did, and what was that result? If there is no result, then why are we even talking about it? Make sense? Did I get it there? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, so, you go to the next slide. So that's just this right here, everything that you have in front of you. This was actually, this is an actual position that was vacant, well, whenever I made this class, so but as a code enforcement officer. And especially, like I said, we're targeting people who are actively transitioning, so even the young E5 that's just getting out of the military can apply to this job, and I guarantee you, if worded correctly, if he thinks about what he did, he's done over 80% of the things on this paper. All right, the very first thing is investigates complaints. We talked about that, right? Meet with citizens. I think you've all done that. Once again, anything in customer service, you've done that. Anything as a leader in the military, you've done that. Enforce codes. If you dealt with OSHA, you enforce codes. Construction folks, you enforce codes. Military, you enforce codes. That's your doggone job, especially as an NCO. All right. Enforce codes related to housing standards, environmental health, vehicle and vegetation abatement. What does that mean? What's vehicle and vegetation abatement? Because a part of this is really just translating what they're writing. All right. So I'll be the first to say it. Anybody ever, I've been on extra duty a couple times when I was in the military. All right? 3 to be exact. But the point is, you ever been on extra, now that I opened the head up, you ever been on extra duty in the military?
Yeah.
I guarantee you've done some vegetation abatement. I guarantee you. What was that? Yeah. Pulling weeds, landscaping, mowing, all that stuff. Look at what they're asking for. All right, and really analyze it. All right, inspect homes, apartment buildings, businesses, and the rest of that statement there. Yeah. I know NCOs have done it because you had to go check the barracks. You had to go do those inspections. And even going off on the economy into some of your soldiers' houses, make sure they're not living, foul or whatever the case may be. But you've done those things. Issues, notices, violations. Every E5 has written a counseling statement. All right? Every E5 has done it. And that even in some branches, E4s. All right? So, perform follow-ups. So if you said, hey, this is wrong, I'm going to come back tomorrow and check this out. Is that performing follow-up?
No, that's notifying them that you're gonna follow.
Right. So you come back, you say, hey, we're going to come, these are the deficiencies. I'm going to come back tomorrow or come back in 2 days. That's the warning for the follow-up, right? They can go over there and do the follow-up inspection. Foster community involvement with neighborhoods and organizations. Once again, team building. That's all that is. All right, yeah, it's a little different because you're talking about a code enforcement officer, which is not necessarily a police officer, but they have some of the similar responsibilities. But that comes down to, once again, what does that come down to? The ability to do that. Foster community involvement with neighborhoods and organizations. What does that come down to? People skills, communication, customer service. See, all these things are all related, and you've got those skills. It's just a matter of finding what they're looking for and expressing yourself in a manner that relates to what they're looking for. But as we go through all this, all you guys know is you notice there's nothing that's been new up here. Once we've actually talked about it, nothing's been new, has it? Next slide. All right. So these are the things that if I was writing a resume, I would definitely highlight all the blue stuff there. Because that goes through to where I say the 80% rule when you're identifying, hey, what do I know what have I done? One way to look at it is if you take this job description, you have 3 markers or 3 highlighters. Green always means go, right? So if you're familiar, if you know what it all is, all those things that you're familiar with and know about, highlight in green. These things that you have done something similar or have very little experience in, but you still know what they're talking about, highlight in yellow. And these things that are just like, I don't know what the other talking about. That's going to be your red stuff. Hopefully, as you do this, you have more green than red. All right, looking at this, your job competencies. And these are all, once again, directly off of record keeping and file maintenance systems. Or record keeping. We've all done record keeping, right? I think we have. Whether it's in the military or any position that you've ever had is probably going to have some sort of record keeping. Now, you're not going to say that, hey, yeah, I've done it when you haven't, but, you know, I'm not even saying stretch the truth at all. I'm saying think about the things that you have done, and you can probably find how it's applicable. Next slide. There we go. So once again, this is the E5 getting out of the Army that, you know, it doesn't matter what he did in the Army, what his job was. That's what I was targeting when I was writing this. So he did record keeping. You know, he did some operations. Now, granted, the E5 may not have done as much operations as the E8, but he's done some. And I can tell you, nowadays, any of those people are going to be familiar with Microsoft Office. That's the very least for some of the organizations that you're looking at. All right, so ability 2, sketch and photograph violations. Yeah, I didn't put that one there because I'm not sketching anything. But we do have a photographer, right? There you go. Next slide. So once again, looking at, you know, the E5 that's just getting out, that regardless of what his MOS is in the Army, he should be able to communicate clearly and concisely, both verbally and in writing. Should be, right? Now, we've all known some of those people who can't, but just by hearing all of your introductions here, it goes back to what Nicole talked about, the 11 impressions in 7 seconds, or 7 impressions in 11 seconds, one of the two. You know, that's, in your introduction here, is yes, everyone is always evaluated. Yes, that's a first impression. Yes.